you have to look at it. Oh, sorry.
Okay, you are doing close reading, which is in your book. Shh. Make sure you know all parts of your matrix band and retainer. And know the function. This is chapter 34. This is the matrix retainer or band?
Retainer.
Retainer. This is the guide. This means this tells you whether the guide channel, whether you are going to move your band to the right or the left, depending on where you're at in the mouth or where you're placing it. I should flip this. This block is called a vice. V-I-S-E-S.
Yeah.
Guide channel. Here, this little slot. So the little diagonal. And you can't have the spindle going through there or you cannot fit your band in there. So, guide channel. This is the spindle. Outer knob or inner knob?
Inner.
Very good. Inner and outer. And they both have different functions. Do you understand them?
Yeah.
Our inner moves our vice up and down, and our outer, will tighten. This is what you do last to tighten it up. Then you have a band. There's different types of bands. This is the one we're primarily going to use. What I want you guys to look at is how I like to say it's a smile. We smile, we don't frown. So the part that goes down is your gingival, and the part that goes up is your occlusal. So what this means in the long run is it gets confusing. When you bend this, you need to say, okay, this dips down. When it's dipped down, this is still the gingival, and this has to go towards the gingiva. The part that's up higher, do you understand what I mean by the up higher?
Yeah.
Is the occlusal. You don't understand something, you need to raise your hand or I don't know. Don't wait till you get to the lab. It's higher, so you can overpack your filling. So you're going to use your inner knob. You never really want it down this far. And move it up. You're going to take your fan and put it through the guide channel. Put it through.
It has to be now like sideways, right? Yeah.
This is wrong. This cannot go through the top. If you look, it's through the top. It needs to go to the right or the left depending on which tooth you're on. So if I tell you the mandibular left,
Should go outside.
gingival side, so is this going to go towards my gingiva? Yes, that's correct. But then the next thing I'm going to ask you is, okay, so tighten it up for now, is can I remove this? And what I mean by this, after we're all done with the whole procedure, and I undo my outer knob, can I lift this out of the patient's mouth? Because we lift this out, and then we lift out the band with our cotton pliers. When you lift something out of the mouth, we're used to using the Typodon, but remember, you have a buccal mucosa. So you may lift it out, you can't lift it down. There's not a hole in their cheek that you can pull it out. So you have to look at a couple different things. One, is your gingival at the gingival? Is your retainer at the buccal side of the mouth? God bless you. And can I remove this, taking it out of the mouth? So on the top, it would be the opposite. I don't want to say, the best way to think about it is you want these guide channels to be towards the gingiva. Then you know you're always right. Because if it's a maxillary, you'd want it this way. Mandibular, you want it this way. Then you're going to take, now you guys, these are very sharp. So you got to be very careful. So you take a mirror in the office, and depending on which tooth you're working on, so this would work nicely probably on a bicuspid. It's not large enough to make it a molar. If I wanted to make it a molar, what would I do? I would take my outer knob, I would turn it, and then I would tighten this, and it makes my matrix larger. That goes around the tooth. What is the purpose of the matrix band?
Keep
So
the
it
cement,
keeps
when
it
you're filling it
together.
up, it doesn't fall off. Because it can't.
Somebody
stay on
else?
that side.
It creates a wall. So if we're creating a wall, we've just removed our mesial or our distal, or our buccal or our lingual, but it's usually
So is
mesial or
it
distal.
actually-
So we are creating a wall.
So the filling doesn't escape and...
Doesn't just, otherwise it would have nowhere to hold it. Another thing you need to have in place is your wedge. Your wedge needs to go on. So if I tell you this is a mesial or a distal, you would need two. If it's an MOD, you would need two, because you would place one in the mesial and one in the distal. So do you agree, you can shut that off, that your